Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Members of Congress, at least on one side, are looking for new ways to counter the Trump administration. For instance, Democratic senators are leaning on the Social Security Administration's Inspector General to investigate cuts there. More on this and what else is going on from WTOP Capitol Hill correspondent Mitchell Miller. And probably we should start with that big, beautiful bill and budget reconciliation as they return. What is the prospects? How are we handicapping that one?
Well, this is really the true nitty-gritty of that big, beautiful bill. This is where it all comes to for what is really going to happen here. We've had a lot of posturing, but now the cuts are going to have to be made. And what's going to happen over the next few weeks is that all of the House committees have been told to mark up the budget, and that is a pretty ambitious schedule for them to get moving on it right now, but they say they have to do it. One of the biggest issues will come before the Energy and Commerce Committee. We've heard a lot about Medicaid, and this is where we're going to really find out what they are going to cut. That committee has been directed to cut at least $880 billion. Where does all that money come from? A lot of people say most of it is going to come from Medicaid. We're going to hear a lot from Democrats saying that Republicans are slashing Medicaid. Republicans are saying, wait a second, we have all these other possibilities, whether it's cutting out fraud or making new work requirements related to Medicaid. So I think that's really going to be the heart of the matter, and we're really going to see whether the House can get this done. Essentially, they want to get it all done by Memorial Day weekend, which even the House, even on the Senate side, the Senate Majority Leader John Thune has said, well, that's a pretty ambitious set of deadlines to have, but we'll see what happens.
They've got all my love, but no sympathy for the deadline there. And, the fact is that Medicaid pays benefits to millions and millions of able-bodied males who are of working age and can work. Not disabled. So if they want to, there's cuts. You can always find money everywhere. But I think of interest to federal employees is the idea of changing the basis for paying for their health benefit premiums with a voucher system. That's in one of the reconciliation provisions, and also paying more toward their annuities coming out of their salaries. Those could sail through.
Yeah, those are big changes, and they definitely could get through because Republicans, as I mentioned, they're looking for any other ways other than direct cuts to save money. So certainly I think those type of proposals are going to have a lot of support from House Republicans. There's a lot of creative ideas that are being posted to figure out how they're going to get these reductions. The House really needs to they want to come up with $1.5 trillion in cuts overall. Obviously, that money is going to have to come from somewhere. So there's going to have to be a lot of creative legislating over the next few weeks.
Right. And now we have Elon Musk, who is said he'll be stepping back to spend more time on Tesla, which has its own challenges as a company. But will that potentially take some of the energy out of all of this doging that's been going on?
Yeah, I think it could, because he has had such a profound impact. And maybe if we just step back for a moment, I mean, if we look at Elon Musk and Doge, they may not have done everything that he had set out to do, but without question, as you well know and your audience knows, they carried out changes to the federal government we had never seen before. He originally claimed that Doge would save $2 trillion, then it dropped to $1 trillion. Ultimately, Doge has claimed to save close to $150 billion, though many of its claims are still being vetted. But unlike those various blue ribbon commissions that have been recommending money-saving proposals over the years, certainly some of them have been implemented, this was sweeping and immediate. Just look at, any agency. Look what he did to USAID, the Education Department, the IRS right now, which is dealing with losing tens of thousands of employees, just to name a few. And the way that he has done it also, of course, caused controversy, sending his teams into these agencies with very little transparency, at least initially. So while that $150 billion may be a drop in the bucket when you look at an annual budget of, say, $6.5+ trillion, I think he has had a real significant impact. Obviously, it's playing out in the courts. And I think, to your point, I think it will, the fact that he is gone, now it's kind of back in Congress's court. A lot of people have said, where is Congress, essentially, over these first 100 days of the presidency?
And who knows, maybe suburban Democrats will be able to not be afraid to take their Teslas out of their garages anymore. We're speaking with Mitchell Miller. He's WTOP Capitol Hill correspondent. And I wanted to delve into that idea of looking into the Social Security Administration administration cuts. As someone who has overdue for hearing back from them personally on getting on there. But there have been cuts made there, and now the IG is being asked to investigate.
Right. So the latest group of people include the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, several Senate Democrats. They are urging the IG at Social Security to investigate the impact of DOGE. It's part of this effort for Democrats to defend Social Security, which, of course, provides benefits to more than 70 million Americans. Lawmakers worrying about DOGE cuts cutting into basic services. We've heard about various offices being closed. So they sent a letter outlining what they call deep concern about what they say are drastic disruptions at Social Security, adding pressure to existing staff, the overhaul of the agency structures. And all of this, by the way, follows a similar letter that was sent by Virginia Congressman Jerry Connolly. So Democrats trying to keep the pressure on related to DOGE as this budget, as the budgeting goes forward and as we look at some of the DOGE issues.
And also you're reporting doings about the Voice of America. A lot of people were perplexed by the cutbacks there, and I guess what looked like shutting down that broadcast of so many decades. What is the latest there? It's in court more than in Congress.
Yeah, and the Voice of America employees were heartened by the fact that they won a legal victory last week. We'll see where it goes. But I think one of the interesting things related to VOA, it's a little deep in the weeds, but if you stick with me here, the judge based his decision on a provision that was way deep in this legislation of VOA, which is unusual for Congress, and that is the legislation actually says that unilateral spending cuts of more than 5% at VOA can't be made by the White House, essentially. So why that is interesting to me and to others is that it shows that if Congress puts very specific language in, it can be upheld in the courts. What we have found with a lot of these other agencies, as you well know, is it's very general language. And even though Congress has power of the purse, if they don't specifically, at least under a lot of these legal rulings, if they don't specifically outline what the level of the employment is at the agency and some of these other details, that can be vulnerable to an executive order, which we've seen time and time again over the last few months.
Right. So VOA could yet rise again, maybe.
Right. We will have to see what happens, but they certainly seem to have one of the stronger legal cases of all these agencies. Now, obviously, VOA is very small compared to all these other federal agencies, but I think it is a lesson that may be learned by Congress. We'll have to see how specific legislators get when they propose bills in the future after what's been happening the last few months.
Mitchell Miller is Capitol Hill correspondent for WTOP. You and I won't be speaking again on the air in this manner, but I know you'll be carrying on.
Absolutely. And I just want to say it's been a real privilege speaking to you, Tom, and your audience every couple of weeks about Congress, the federal government. You are a real pro, and happy travels as you rev up your motorcycle in retirement.
Thanks so much, sir. And we'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Hear the Federal Drive on demand. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.